Hi, everybody. Welcome to SHI's Taste with Integrity and Back to Basics. So, the idea behind this series is that people get a flair of the different cooking styles that we use, some on a very daily basis, and then also exploring the energetic qualities of each dish together with the various types of cookware that you may use or choose to use, and how that then also affects like little nuances, how different things and different ways of doing the same thing create little differences. So I'm going to get started right away. The last dish I'm going to do, so I'm going to do some quick steamed greens, and I have bok choy here. And what I did here is I separated the two. I separated the stem from the leaves. Okay, so I'll be doing that first. Then we'll be talking about some round vegetables and the way they can be steamed a little differently. There's like a little piece of bread that's the end piece, but you know what? That's good when it's steamed. There's a piece of tofu there too. And then finally, we'll be discussing nishime. Due to lack of time, I'm not going to prepare that dish in front of you. And you have to prepare pretty much a large, like a little larger quantity, at least like 2 servings for that, if you're going to do that in order for the dish to turn out really well. So I want to get started. And first, I'm going to slide this stuff off to the side. These are my different seasonings that we'll talk about when we're ready. So first and foremost, the idea of steaming is literally energy that has a settling down quality. So whether it's quick steamed, whether it's medium steamed, whether it's steamed with oil, whether it's nishime, as in long steamed, it all still has that settling quality. Okay. Now, the way that's significant is a lot of that settling quality takes our energy from the periphery into the center and moves that down. So how does that benefit us? Well, in a longer dish, that kind of strengthens the whole intestinal and like round organs right here. With upper body things, it could also help eliminate excess mucus or excess like fatty deposits like that are in the upper body. Even things like your eyes, like if you have eye problems or maybe you have a toothache, that you want to take energy from that particular area and draw it down and settle it down. All those little things you can use quick steamed greens, and then together with that, the choice of the vegetables that you use can also have like a different significance because each vegetable has a different energetic quality. So we'll get started. This is a Cuisinart, and I've had this for a really long time. It was a present from dear friends of mine, Jeremy and Susan. It's a present to us, and it has like smaller little holes on the bottom, and it's been well used. It's probably over 20 some years. I'll date myself here. And I have one of these little neoprene things on the top here just to cover. So when you steam, for quick steam greens, ideally you want to use a steamer basket. And this right here is the bottom. It's been through a few seminars over the years, so we got little dents and bumps and whatnot, but it still works perfectly fine. And I don't want to get rid of it, even though it has a little dent here, because this particular Cuisinart actually has a copper core on the inside, so it heats very evenly and efficiently. And I'm going to slide everything over, and I'm going to put this and use this burner. So the first thing I do when I'm doing quick steam greens, we don't care what green you're doing, like whether you're doing collard greens, that's a little bit more fibrous, whether you're doing daikon greens, turnip greens, bok choy here, whether you're doing Napa cabbage, you always want to start with a little bit of water in the pot there. And then the next thing that we do is we're going to take the steamer basket and we're going to set it on top. Now, if you have a bamboo steamer, that works very nicely as well. I have one of these here, but it's a little large, so I'll just like bring it over. This was actually my mom and dad's, but it's great, and that works really well. think the advantage of the bamboo is, in a sense, it has a more dry quality to it because this is, you know, like wooden material, or this is stainless steel. So that's going to hold a little bit more condensation. This does not. So if you're steaming things like tortillas, pita bread, even sourdough bread, then there is a good advantage to using these bamboo steamers. The whole key to that is finding the right bottom to it, something that can actually fit. Because a lot of the bamboo steamers, they were really designed to be used together with a wok. So they're stainless steel woks that you can purchase, but it's hard finding ones that just like fit the right things. Oftentimes, you know, like the bigger ones will fit something, and you know, let's face it, we don't always want to get out like those large cooking utensils and cooking materials. Whether you're like even like a family of four, it's just not something that you want to do all the time. Something like this is like plenty big enough. It's just actually, you know, like the perfect size. So in quick steaming, because it's a light vegetable dish, it's still supposed to maintain some crunch. And what happens is, as this begins to steam a little bit, like the water starts to bubble, okay? And then the steam begins to rise up to the top. So ideally, this is going to be ready when this whole basket inside here is filled with steam. So as the steam rises to the top, it's going to hit the top of this lid here, it's going to hit the sides, and it's going to gently settle down. So when you make this particular dish, even though it's a light vegetable dish, it still needs to be crunchy and it still needs to be bright and beautiful and colorful, but it's going to have a subtle settling down effect. So that's why if you have any type of upper body problems, like could be your sinuses, could be allergies, like I said, like toothaches, like, you know, some people get like ear things, any type of fatty deposits in the breast area, like we get fatty deposits in and around the lymph nodes here, then quick steam greens is something that you would want to include on a very regular basis. Together with that, if your concern is dropping a few pounds, then quick steam greens is very, very important that you want to have that ideally like every day. And especially, there's a hint, write this down, watercress. Watercress is very helpful for teeth problems, and watercress is very, very helpful for lung, breast, and weight loss. So now I can hear this. If you were here, you would hear a little bit of the sound coming about. And what I did, like I said, is this is the leaf. This is the bok choy. It's baby bok choy, but it's very, very beautiful and it has longer leaves. Lancaster County, right? And what I did was, if you can see, is I separated this out like this and this. So when you're steaming or when you're blanching or sauteing, you ideally want to separate it out. And then you could take another cut and you can go down the center like that. And then you have two halves and you can just go down the center. Sometimes when I do that, I'll just cheat and do that. And then this goes, I'm going to show you something different too. So we'll just leave that there for now. I'll show you two different methods. And there's the bottom and here's the top. So the top, if you look at it, it has nice little lines here. So you can just take your knife, go down the center, all right? And then I just go in line with those little lines there, and there we have that. Here again. So we'll keep each on their respective piles. And I'm going to turn this down a little bit because I don't want all my water to boil away. That would be very great. But I still have a nice head of steam in there. So if you lift that up, woohoo, there we go. Hope everybody can see that. We'll put that here. This is the most moist form of steaming. Well, not the most, but it's a more moist form because, as I said before, you have condensation that's going to build up and remain like there on the stainless steel. There's another form of steaming that I'll show next, and that's done directly in the pot, like right next to the fire. ideally, if you're steaming on a regular basis for health, then this is the way you want to do it. There's nothing wrong with this, steaming directly in the pot. You can do that. However, um, steamed grains and lightly steamed things have a more downward type of energy. So in terms of yin and yang, that would make the dish a little bit more yang. Okay. And if you're putting this like really close to the fire, it's going to be more wet, but it's going to create a more yang quality in the dish. So we'll do each back to back because it takes like, like about a minute to do. And then you can just like maybe do a little comparison. So let this go for a few seconds. I have this sliced like relatively thin. If you're quick steaming, I would like take the stems a little thinner. If you're doing something like a collard green, mustard green, or a daikon or turnip green, that's a little bit more fibrous. Kale is much more fibrous. You still want to separate that out. And then you would put the stems in there for a while. Now, I know in our book, some people said, well, isn't 2 minutes like too long to steam? Well, yeah, because that's sometimes like you're not steaming everything all at once. You could be steaming, like your kale stems for like a good minute, because depending on the season, the stems are going to be a little bit more fibrous, and it's going to require a little bit more cooking time. So I'm going to lift this up. And if I were to look in here, what I can do, pop this here for a minute. I'm just going to lift that up so you can see the color that we have there right now. That way you get like a nice little visual of what's going on. Now, if I would look at that, I can tell that that's not done, but some of these are a little bit closer to done. They weren't cooking very long. It probably wasn't even a minute of time. So what I'll do, and I'm actually losing a little bit of steam while I'm showing you all this stuff, then we put the leaves in. And then we're just going to give it a little bit more time. I'll use my prep bowl here. It can go right back into the prep bowl. You could do a flat plate if you wanted to. This is not too deep. I wouldn't go like more deep than this. Just like something nice and lightly shallow. It's one of these little beautiful Japanese serving dishes that a good friend of mine, she was an artist, given that to me. And we'll just use that. And then you can take chopsticks, or ideally, it's going to be easier if I use a flat utensil, because sometimes the chopsticks can get caught in the little hole, and you don't want to ruin your chopsticks, especially if it's a nice pair of cooking chopsticks. So for to look at this, I can see that that's not quite done. And you can see there, well, these pieces are done, these little pieces are not. So it just needs to go literally like a few more seconds, because when you keep in mind, even after you take it out of the pot, it's going to continue to cook. So you actually are going to slightly, ever so slightly undercook this. Really, there's only so many lightly cooked vegetable dishes that we use, and ideally you want to try to use one with each meal that you have. So there's like quick steam, there's blanching, similar in that they're light, bright, and crunchy and quick, and different in that their energetic properties are completely different. Okay, so now this is done. Now, even though this rests on top, this can be pretty hot. So take this over and take everything out. And what this is going to do, this helps bring out the fibrous quality and the minerals. And then to further enhance that and make the nutrition more bioavailable, a couple times a week when you have quick steam greens, you can serve it with some fresh squeezed lemon. And if we were to look in the color here, there's a little bit of ever so, again, light color that comes out from the vegetable itself. So we'll put that over here. Just gonna take this and I'm going to like top. So there we have it. Quick steam greens A. Now we'll go to our next pot. So just gonna put this off to the side for now. I'm gonna keep working with this burner here. And I'll show you what it's like to do something directly in the pot. So here, if you're going right in, and there's a little bit of water in the bottom of the pot. So don't cheat. You're still gonna get that come to a boil and have some condensation build up in there. Because this is so close to the flame, this lid's gonna get really hot. So you wanna have something there that you can, like ideally use right away. Right-handed, so we can switch this around just like that. We can tell that that's relatively hot. You're using more of a medium type of flame. So this is not something that you're doing on a lower flame. You can tell that we probably have some steam going on because I can hear the sound that it's making. So I'm just going to lift this up and see what we have. Yep, there we go, steam. And we're just going to put this directly in the pot. And this tends to cook a little bit faster. Now, if you were adding a little bit of oil to this, which there's nothing wrong with doing that, I wouldn't add that right now, but what I would do is when I add leafy greens, sometimes I've done that if I want something that's just a little bit more rich, where I'll literally take some sesame oil, usually light sesame oil or a lightly toasted oil, and I'll just put like a drop of oil in there, not a lot. That's again just if I want something that's like a little bit more rich, but it's not like like sauteed. And when you do that though, then you are going to need to season it with something salty to balance out the oil. So what I would recommend, you could either do shoyu, like a drop of shoyu, it's a dispenser, or you could do a couple drops of umeboshi vinegar that I have here. That's really quite nice. You can do a combination of shoyu in mirin too. So there's all kinds of different things that you can do. But for today's purposes, we're just going to play it straight and we're just making regular steamed greens. Ideally, you are not seasoning this. You're just steaming. So if we look at that, you can tell them cook much faster, right? And then the trick is going to be getting that out of there in the bowl without having a puddle of water on your plate. So ideally, you don't want like this left with this puddle of water. So you know what? I'm even going to like switch dishes here. And we're going to use this dish. And I'll plate it on this particular dish. Simply because if I were to go in here and I have a little bit of water, that's just going to be much more difficult to get rid of. What you can do, if you have some water, you can just like put this on just like you would if you were blanching, and then like pour off the water. I'm not going to reuse that water or anything like that. Literally consider the water that you're cooking in here just like, the price of cooking. There's not really much you ideally want to do with it, and that is completely done. So turn this off. And I'm going to use chopsticks here and see if I can try to get this out here very quickly. This is an interesting preparation, like say if you wanted to do something like broccoli, or if you wanted to do something like kale and cook a little garlic in it. So you can simmer a little garlic in there first. Like maybe you're doing something different the dish. Want something a little bit more fancy. So there we did pretty well. There's still a little bit. I'm gonna take my thing here and I'll just I really like cooking with chopsticks, but it's not everybody is great with chopsticks. So if we put that side by side, look at the difference. Same dish, completely different. It's going to be a little bit more dry. More what I would recommend if you're having quick steam greens, and this is going to be, just like a different dish. And this is uncooked. Okay. Then let's come around here and I'll show you something completely different. So we can steam bread too. And steam bread, it's dry already, so we're good here. Bread, you don't need to wait for that. It's the heel, so it'll take a little longer. That can go right in. But ideally, you want to be careful not to have like a ton of condensation, because if you do, and the condensation drips on that, then you're going to have a soggy piece of bread, and that's not going to be overly delicious. So what I do when I steam bread, I take my little plate here, and I have something like this. I have a sushi mat on it, like all ready to go. And then what I'll be doing is, once this is steamed, I'll be removing it from the pot carefully, so no condensation. I'm going to put it here, and then I will cover it up and let it sit. If you were to put it directly on the plate, again, you're going to get a little bit more condensation there. And that's one of the tricks to not have your bread soggy. Steamed bread is delicious. It makes the nutrients in bread much more bioavailable and more digestible, and brings the properties more back towards what would be the equivalent of a complex carbohydrate, as opposed to like more refined. So that's the advantage to steaming. This is unyeasted sourdough bread. And I'm going to use this utensil, the flat one, here. Yeah, oftentimes too, like if you're making a simple meal, you can like use the same utensil. Put that over here for now. Not quite ready. Requires a little bit more steaming, but like you don't want to leave like the bread in there too long, because it will stick to the bottom of the steamer basket. It needs to go a little bit longer. Basically, the rule of thumb is when it starts to smell like freshly baked bread, it's done. And if you're making a sandwich, or if you're making, like even just something simple like tahini and sauerkraut or tahini and kimchi, I would still recommend putting it on a sushi mat and not like spreading the nut butter until it cools down just a little bit. This should probably, yep, we're done here. Pick that up again. Ha ha ha. Wow. So that's steamed bread. And you can see the color change, and you can see like the color change here. And then you can just wrap it up nicely. And that goes right there. Just gonna rinse off my utensils. I want to use this utensil. I love this utensil. It's one of my favorite things. Works well if you're cooking fish, tofu. So next we'll steam tofu. So this can be done directly in the pan too. A little bit of shoyu. You don't need like that big head of steam there. Oh, that wasn't good. Maybe need to cook very long. Let's put that over there. And what I usually do is I take a little bit of shoyu, okay, water in there, but that's perfectly fine. And then there's different things that you use. This comes from Toiro Kitchen. It's just some spicy salty green shiso things, and this is a red, very similar, that you could use. So you could use something like that. This is harissa. Harissa is very delicious, not like as salty. This one's really easy to find in a lot of different natural food stores, whether it's a health food store. I think locally you have Martinelli's, you have a Scene, you have Whole Foods, you have Mom's. Really, I'm a big fan of Martinelli's and Mom's, and this is a whole different type of harissa. My preference is this one. It's just much harder to find. This one, I think I got in one of the DeBruno Brothers stores years ago. It keeps for a really long time. So I'll use it if I can get it open. So here, you're just going to take a little bit, and because it is spicy, and you can, like use a mixture of a number of different things. Mustard, you could go in there. But this just gives like a little nice bit of spice. So this is what I do when I make my sandwiches. And the tofu does not need to be in there very, very long. In fact, I'm going to declare this finished. Huh? And I'll get this. We're just going to let that sit like that for a little bit. So the heat helps cook the seasoning. And we'll just like let that there. Easy peasy, right? And then we'll put this guy off to the side. And then we'll do some longer steaming of round vegetables. So you thought you were just getting like a few little things. I thought so too, but then I got enthusiastic. So here. So very similar to, Mediterranean style saute. I'm going to take some pieces in here. And here, you can take your stem here, go around, just like that. And it goes to the compost bin. It's very excited. Online, I saw a compost bin that I'm thinking of buying in my backyard. It seals shut, so hopefully that will keep out anybody that decides they want to hang out. I'm just going to make a little bit here just so that you can see. So remember in Mediterranean saute, we steamed first, then we added oil and seasoned, and then we steamed some more. And we actually moved the vegetables around. So here it's going to be very similar. It can go in like right away, okay? And I'll put that lid on there. Side. And in this case, it's going to differ because we're not moving it. So ideally, I wouldn't pair quick steamed greens and Mediterranean saute in the same meal. They're a little too similar, but they do differ. Mediterranean saute, you're going to actually be folding, whether you're doing something a little bit more active like we did in the last session, or whether it's a gentle fold, you're still folding. You're still like moving that in here. Where this, you're just like steaming directly in the pot. If you want something more crunchy, then my advice would be to use stainless steel, like when we did like the bok choy here directly in the pot. But if you want something to have a more rich flavor, actually cast iron is the way to go. Personally, a lot of the really fibrous vegetables like dandelion greens or some mustard greens, sometimes turnip and daikon greens, my preference really is to use stainless because I find even kale can be like a little too fibrous depending on the time of year. So ideally, what I would do is if you want it lightly steamed, then I would use stainless. Because if you don't, the same thing with watercress too. You could end up bringing out too much fiber in the dish, and then you can't really chew it, so that's no fun. Definitely, not fun ever if you can't chew something. Here, we could put a little bit of oil on it if we wanted to. Just a smidge, and if you wanted to, like, simmer some a little bit of, I don't want it to pour out in there. Anyway. If you wanted to make it more Mediterranean, you could always like put a little garlic in there. Just do it that way. And the thing is, if you're seasoning here and you are adding oil, the whole thing is then oil, that salt is going to be like, like more or less on the surface. So in this case, you want to use way less oil, and you want to use just like a couple little granules of salt, not like where you're actively seasoning, like, for example, if you're doing like broccoli raw, or if you're doing like a longer form of Mediterranean, like cauliflower last week, Romanesco, or cabbage. We'll just be there for a little bit longer. And, like you could do it like that, it's still crunchy. Of course, you can do broccoli in these pots too, or directly on the flame like we did. It's just, like a demonstration here. Where did I go with my chopsticks? You know what, while we're waiting here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to flip it. So you see how that's really nicely coated there? If you don't, then just take your finger and. So it's starting to absorb into the tofu. It's going to be very spicy. With my finger. So this should be done. Oops. Sometimes these lids can stick a little bit. So you could keep it just like this, nice and bright, if you wanted to, or ideally a little bit longer. Really, that's a personal preference thing. But I will take that out. Ouch. Got my large intestine point. I was making polenta the other day and it bubbled up and got my large intestine point too. On the other hand, probably if I cut the flame, that'll help. Don't get that one. There we go. And there we have broccoli. So the last dish then I'm going to describe is nishime. So nishime is a longer cooked dish, and certainly you can do vegetable stews that are longer steamed. I do that frequently where it doesn't have any kombu and maybe they're layered, maybe it's not layered. It really depends on like what I feel like doing for the day. But the first step, I want a pot that's ideally heavier with this heavy style of lid. So this is cast iron and it's enamel covered. This is a light pretty bed. If I can get this open. I'm going to put a little bit of kombu seaweed. So about a postage stamp size piece, or you could say an inch. So, like we're going literally like that. That goes in the bottom of the pot. So that's the first unique aspect of nishime. The second unique aspect is that vegetables are layered. They are layered in terms of their energetic properties. So vegetables with more yin energy, meaning energy that tends to like rise up, are layered on the bottom. Then round vegetables, and you can just like determine that with like texture and consistency. I'll give you a few examples. And then like root vegetables, ideally on the top. Now that can change if you're using something like burdock. Sometimes that can get awfully dry if you're adding burdock to a nishime. Again, for special purposes, I don't usually do that too much, but I have done that where I've done things like directly on the bottom and then layered, but it was just like a small amount of burdock. That's again kind of like unique and just like one of those different set of circumstances that you're doing. But you know, you can add things like dried shiitake that would go on the bottom of the pot after it's soaked and like reconstituted and then and sliced. That can go on the bottom of the pot. Things like leeks, things like celery, all those little leafy green type things that can go on the bottom. Fennel would be something that would be interesting, or onion. Oftentimes, you know, like we'll put like, you know, like onion on the bottom. And when you're filling this pot up, ideally, you want that first layer to completely fill the pot here. I know some of you that are probably here today have had classes with me over the years, and yeah, I hope many of my students are here. But that's one of the things that I think really determines the taste and the energetic, just like more key that's generated from the dish, where you're really not leaving a lot of little gaps. So if you're not going to have like a large enough quantity of vegetables to fill this pot, then choose a smaller pot. So ideally, you want to choose the size of pot according to the amount of vegetables that you're cooking, and your dish will turn out much better. Even if you're doing just a small amount and you don't have a small layer creuset, I do have a small layer creuset that will make easily like 5, like almost like 6 servings of nishime. This can go like at least like 8, even like 9 servings when you really you like pack this through. If any of you have ever like seen me make this dish, which was very common in our course, the Strengthening Health Intensive, which was a 5-day intensive to get people, you know, up and running. I always like have had this like really, really full. It's the point that I would make little designs in the bottom of the pot. But that way allowed me to get more vegetables in there. So then like the first layer would go in there. Then I add a little bit of water. I don't add water from the very beginning simply because, so my analogy is if you fill a bath too full, right? And then you maybe like go to get in the bath, it can like rise up like way higher. So this is like way more full. And then sometimes like water escapes through the drain, which is, you know, not such a bad thing, but it's annoying because you just want to relax in your tub. You don't want to sit there and listen to like gurgle, gurgle for the first like, you know, like several minutes of your bath. So what I do is I get that first layer in there, and then I go about like 3/4 of an inch or possibly an inch, depending. So if you're using onions, and you know sometimes onions are much more juicy than others, then you could go a little less, like maybe a 1/2 an inch there. But if you're using something that's a little bit more dry, like a leek, then you can do like about like 3/4 of an inch of water, like on the bottom of the pot. Then you would be adding, you know, like the next layer on top there. Again, that's usually like round vegetables. And I would choose something that's a little bit less hard, and then the harder vegetable on top of that. Again, just because like something that's a little bit more dry is going to have more of that settling, gathering energy. Or if you're, you know, like familiar with yin and yang, it's going to have more yang energy as opposed to something that's a little bit more moist. So, for example, a butternut squash versus a kabocha or Hokkaido pumpkin, which is more yin, which is more yang. They're both winter squashes, right? They're both better when the weather gets cooler. But the butternut cup squash has a much softer texture. You do have to take the shell off of that. That's not going to be good. So you have like this harder shell, but a very soft, creamy like texture, whereas like Hokkaido pumpkin or kabocha pumpkin or the butter cup squash, that's the green one with the little light green top to it, that you can eat the shell, but it's going to have much more dry consistency to it and texture. So like a regular sweet potato versus like a Japanese sweet potato. I know everybody loves the Japanese sweet potatoes, but they're like way more dense. They're much more young. So like if we're using 2 sweet potatoes, like say you did like onions, you did like, like orange sweet potatoes, Japanese sweet potatoes, then maybe you did like parsnips or carrots, you have like your root vegetables more towards the top. So the benefit of having this dish is that because it's cooked a little bit longer, and you can adjust the cooking time depending on the vegetables that you're using, but also depending on the size and cut of your pieces. Ideally, you want it to steam, and you start timing it when it starts steaming. You can hear the water in there. You're not going to get a lot of condensation escaping this particular pot, unless it's like really filled and you have too much water, then it might spurt out. But you can hear a little bit in the bottom there, so you don't need to be lifting your lid. And at that point, you're going to lower your flame and you're going to steam it for like a good 20 minutes, maybe longer, 25 or so. And then maybe you can check it and see where your water level's at. A lot of that would have reduced at that point. And if your vegetables are tender enough, then you can lightly season with shoyu. And then I replace the lid, give it a little shake, and then let it simmer for another like couple minutes, lower the flame, and then I just like leave the lid on that. And I usually leave that on there until I'm ready to serve it. Because this is nice, but that way the whole energy, again, it further enhances that settling down quality. So this is very unique because that little bit of kombu in there provides much more of a mineral quality, but it also brings out the protein and the carbohydrate in this particular dish. So it's going to be more unique and have more nutrition than just regular steamed vegetables. So that's all I have for tonight, and I hope you enjoyed this class. I'm trying to decide what we'll work on next for back to basics, but I'll come up with something good. And like if you catch every round of back to basics, then like, hey, you'll have like a whole course under your belt there. So I do hope that you can continue to support SHI because we do rely on donations. This is a free class, and our intention and our desire is to really offer more and more free classes. I even found somebody who possibly is a videographer that like can help us out a bit, but like all that like takes some financial responsibility too. So we do hope that you will support us so that we can continue to support you and provide you with the good quality education that we do here. So thanks a whole lot. I really appreciate your time being with you tonight.
All right. Thank you so much, Susan, for that class that we just had the opportunity to witness here. We do have a little bit of time for some Q&A, probably not, but so much, I would say. Maybe if someone has, maybe able to take a few questions. So for sake of time, if you do have a question, I'm just going to ask for you to unmute yourself, and then I'll just call on you directly. So we'll just take maybe a few minutes or so. But if not, we can definitely wrap up as well too.
Okay, Susan and Tehran, fabulous class. Susan, really extraordinary. Thank you so much. I learned a lot. Thank you. The little shoyu dispenser that would be at a mom's or somewhere or
This is Mitoku Shoyu from but the dispenser came from Toivo Kitchen. You can just like go to any of the Asian markets, dump the shoyu that's in there because it's probably no good and it's used like made with chemicals, rinse it out really good or boil it and then replace it with good shoyu. But they're nice because they have like little things here. And they tend to not have some really fancy, beautiful hand-blown ones, but some of them like yeasted up and I just could never it would continuously like yeast up. So like, we don't want that. I use it for a flour base now.
Okay, I have one more question, but I'll let somebody else go next, so I'm not being greedy.
Thank you.
I can come back. Come
Okay,
back
does
to
anyone
my
else have a
question.
question? And if not, we can definitely address Carol's second question. Once again, if you have a question, feel free to just unmute yourself and I'll call on you. Carol, go ahead. You can ask her the question because we will
Okay,
have to
my
wrap up
second,
very
my,
soon right
my,
now.
yeah, sure. My second question is that spicy powder thing, is that Toyu Kitchen again?
This
From
comes
Levi?
from Toyro Kitchen. Yeah, I like
Oh,
it. It's a little, the green one's a little salty. It's a little bit spicier, but I really do like it because it's like great, like on a sandwich. I think it's meant to like I've added it to ponzu sauces that I made. Um, I used to get salmon at the farmer's market, and you could literally, or even like fluke that was freshly caught, that because it's all frozen anyway, so that kills all the parasites. You can just like slice it like really super thin, and you can make like a little ponzu sauce for like sashimi. It's fine, you
oh,
can make your own
yeah,
sashimi, and
yeah.
you're gonna get like a better quality fish anyway. Same thing with if you're making like a more Japanese style of, well, not ceviche. It wouldn't be ceviche because that's like lime and that, but it's just used to make a lot of different things like that with raw fish. But I like it with tofu a lot. And tempeh. It's good, like mixed in, like making like a dip or a spread for tempeh.
Okay, well, for sake of time at this moment, sorry everyone, we don't have as much time as we would have for question and answer. So maybe for the next period, we can have a little bit more. But thank you so much again, Susan, for allowing for this. Once again, as she mentioned, free presentation for tonight. We will have a recording available for those that are eager to, rewatch and to share with their friends. That will be sent out as early as tomorrow, but as late as Friday. So just be patient, as I always say. Allow anywhere from 24 to 48 hours to be able to rewatch that and to get the recording. Next Wednesday, we will be having a menu planning workshop with Susan. The details for that will be in the email that I'll be sending with the recording with this. Just don't have enough time to give you all the details for that. And if you really enjoyed this class and the classes that we've had before, this one, Susan will be having a festive holiday dish cooking class that's going to be coming up in a couple of weeks, actually on the 29th. So same day, Wednesday, November 29th. Details about that will be included in the email, will be on our website as well too. And the last thing that I'll just mention as well, for some of you may know, we recently had yes, we do. I know we post all of our free presentations on YouTube. So any of the videos like this do get posted on our YouTube, on our social media channels as well too. And the last thing that I'll just make mention of is that for those who didn't have the opportunity to attend our fall conference that we had just a few weeks ago, I know there's a few people who are on here now who really enjoyed it. They can definitely attest to the amazing experience. Recordings for that event are also available. We do have still links on our website where you can, go directly to and purchase those as well. But I'll also include a link for that as well for the recording that I'm going to be sending out within the next couple of days. So feel free for everyone. You can send your chat and send the chat your appreciations and your thanks, or you can directly unmute and just show your appreciations for Susan as well. But that's all that we'll have. Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was wonderful.
Oh,
Beautiful
yeah,
class.
thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah. And if anybody has questions, like if you have a longer question, just email me. sstigerlil@yahoo.com.
Yes, I'll include her email as well in that email.
Okay.
Or her email in the email.
I do answer them.
All right, everyone. We'll see you soon. Have a good night.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.